Hello crafters and welcome back. My name is Deepa from DeeZinesByD, and today I have the final installment for the April Spellbinders release, and this one is the Spellbinders Through the Garden Gate collection. So I have three different sets that I want to show you today, and I have two complete cards that I'm showing you in this showcase, but the card that I'm going to be focusing on is this one here, which features the Floribunda Rose. Now, this one is very special to me because I used to live on Floribunda. This is where I grew up. I spent my entire childhood and the beginning of my adulthood there, and I just, once I saw the rose, I knew I had to buy this one. So anyways, I have the Floribunda Rose to showcase for you today. So let's go ahead and take a look at the three sets that I have. So these are all of the sets that come. There's 5 flower sets and 1 stamp set. This one is the Bee Blossom. It creates these cute little flowers. This one is the Forget Me Not and Ladybug set. You can see it has a little ladybug on there. And then this is the Floribunda Rose set. So this is one of the largest flowers. I think the other large flower is the gardenia, but this one is absolutely stunning. And I'm going to show you how to put it together in 2 different ways, one of which I think is much better than the other, but I'll go ahead and show you both. Now, I've mentioned this before. All of Susan's dies, they have numbers on them, and they tell you how many times to cut out each of these dies. So if it says 2x, cut it out 2 times, 6x, cut it out 6 times, and basically the 2 largest petal pieces you cut out twice. The smaller 3-pronged petal is 3 times. The smallest, these little little petals are 6 times, and then the leaves and the bud are 2 to 3 times. For the Forget Me Not and Ladybug set, if there is no number on the die, it means to cut it out once. So the little flowers, you cut that out once, the branch once. Those all go and work together along with the leaves, which I think it says 2 or 3 times. Now, again, here's the process that I love to use the most. I love cutting everything out of white cardstock and adding the desired colors. And I love adding not just one color, but multiple colors to create a nice blended effect. So I've added some washi tape to the negative part of this die cut here on the back, inlaid all of the little pieces, and now I'm adding some Altenew inks to these beautiful flowers. So I'm adding some Pastel Sunrise and some Pink Pearl at first. I'll add the Pastel Sunrise to the edges and the Pink Pearl in the center. And these are the lightest colors out of these sets. If you know Altenew inks, they come in sets of 4 from gradually increasing in darkness colors of ink. So then I move on to the second darkest ink for both of these, which is the Canyon Clay for the peachy color and Coral Bliss for the more pinky color in the center of the flower. And you can see once I remove it from the negative piece, it actually looks really nice. I did the same for the larger pieces, and you can see it just looks stunning. So I went ahead and matched it up to this picture I have on my phone here because I really like the color combination. That's a great way to find a color palette and to create realistic flowers if you're really looking for that look. Now for the petals, I'm using some Shadow Creek and I think some Hunter Green. I'm not 100% sure, but I have all of the colors and all the products that I'm using here listed in my blog, which is linked in the description below. Now, for this little bud, it actually doesn't come in pieces. It's all in one, so you can see that you kind of have to be careful in your inking to get the actual leafy part of the bud and the actual petal part of the bud. So here are all my pieces, all nicely ink blended. I've got them all done. Now, one thing I do a little later in my video is I do add some ink to the other side of the smallest petals, and that just helps me complete the flower so that there's no white. Now, this is where you shape all of your petals. So the Spellbinders Tool-in-One comes with all of these ball attachments or stylus attachments, and there are 3 different sizes. This is the largest stylus, and because this is such a large flower, this works best. Now, I can see from my pictures that the Floribunda Rose, it mainly has those edges curling a lot. So what you want to do is add that stylus and indent the edges a lot so that they furl and turn over. So at this point, I realized I had to add some more of that ink to the other side of these petals, and I did so and came back and then shaped the flower petals a bit more. And then I also went ahead and shaped the leaves. Now I find for the leaves, I kind of make sure I get the edges to get them to turn over a bit. And then I also like to do a straight back and forth movement along where the actual vines of the leaf would be. For the bud, I'm just going to make it a bit rounded and do a little bit of the stem just so that it looks a little bit more aged and gives it more of a realistic look. Now, this is the first method. This is a valid method. I don't think it looks the best, but it was the first flower I did. So I wanted to show you, I mean, I'm not the best person at putting together the flowers. I'm still learning, just like much of you out there, and this is how you learn, by trial and error. So I kind of put this together more like you would put together an actual rose. I mean, it is a Floribunda rose, so I thought, why not, just curl the petals around each other, overlapping them to create the center of a rose. But when you do this, it's very kind of compact and the petals are put together very close together, and it creates more of a traditional rose than the actual Floribunda rose. So we'll just go ahead with this technique here just for the sake of trying it out, and you can see it's very tight, that centerpiece. Now, for the rest of the petals, these are the larger petals, I'll just go ahead and attach them one on top of each other, kind of alternating them so that the petals kind of cover each other and create that beautiful layered look. There are 3 of the smaller 3-pronged petals, and there are 2 of the larger 3-pronged petals, and those just kind of fit one inside each other. I'm using Tombow mono glue here because I find that it's a little bit more tacky than the Bearly Arts glue. The Bearly Arts glue takes a little bit more time to become tacky, and so I like to use the Tombow mono for this. Now I've attached those 2 larger pieces to the bottom here. You can see the one piece wasn't fully attached, so I'm adding some more glue there. And then in the center, I just had like a huge dollop of glue, and then I add that curled little center in there. So you can see when I put this together, the actual curled portion of that center bud doesn't completely go with the rest of the flower, but it still works. It's still a decent flower. So I'm not going to toss it or anything. I still like it, but I did want to try doing it a different way. So I did some more petals. And this time I left out the 2 larger petals. The largest petals, I left those ones out. And this time I added more of the peachy color in the center and more pink on the outside edges. And now I'm just going to start with the largest petals and start layering them one on top of each other with that little dot of glue in the center and alternating the petals so that, you're not seeing any openings in between the petals. And I'll just keep layering those. And I find that this was the best method. Now here's where it gets tricky. So the center of the flower, instead of creating that bud and just adding it, I'm gonna just layer up those petals. And what I'm gonna do is kind of pinch the bottom of the petal and kind of fold it in a little bit. I'm actually doing it here as I attach it. You can see I'm kind of creating a little bit of a fold at the bottom, which makes that petal kind of cup a bit to create that normal cupping shape of the petal to allow it to fold around and inwards. So those are the first 3 center petals. Now I have 3 more to add, and all I'm going to do is make that center fold just a little bit more tight to make it curl and create a smaller cup as I continue around the center of the flower here. Again, that beautiful fold is what creates that little curve in the petal, and I'll attach that second to last piece here. And then I find that the bulk of the fiddly work is really with the center petal. So you can see I'm trying my best to kind of curve it around in the center here. It really, for this flower, doesn't matter how you do it. You just want it to look random. Well, the more random it looks, the more natural it looks. So I've just kind of cupped it around here, and I folded the bottom up a little bit, added a big dollop of glue in the center, and I'm just attaching it here. I'm using my die pick here to kind of just stick it all in, and you can see the difference in the look. This one looks a little more natural. This one looks a little bit different, but they're both viable flowers, so I'm going to be putting both on my card, and you're really not going to notice that the first one looks much different from the second, because they are two different. There are two flowers, they're two different colors, and all flowers in nature aren't exactly the same anyways. So now I'm going to move on to these beautiful little flowers here. So these are the forget-me-nots, and it cuts out 6 flowers with 1 die, and all I'm doing is kind of shaping the backs of these. These are a little bit easier to shape and put together because it's just really 1 to 2 layers. Now these tinier flowers, you're going to want to change your stylus tip to the smallest stylus, and when you do this, you'll notice that these little flowers, they just curl ever so nicely, and the little petals just pop up. So you see that it really makes those little flowers pop up. On the edges of the vine here, I'm going to go ahead and attach these little flowers, and that's the final little look that you get. Now for the actual background of the card, I'm using this half slimline oval set, which was also released this month. This is such a stunning frame for this card. Now you will see that it's a slimline frame, and I'm going to show you how to cut this down to create a frame for a 5x7" card. You could even cut it down for an A2 size card. So I've cut it out of this beautiful brown foam. Now this foam was released this month as well, and it is absolutely stunning. I would recommend it to anybody because you could use it for these frames, you could use it for die cuts, you could use it for sentiments. It's so nice. Now you can see here I've actually measured how much longer this bracket is than the actual piece of cardstock that I'm gonna use to create the front panel of my card. It's about 2 inches longer. So I found the center of that frame, I marked it, and then measured 1 inch to one side and 1 inch to the other side, marked it, and I've cut those pieces out of both of those frames. So now I can kind of attach them, connecting at the center at the desired length that I want for this card. As you can see, there is a bit of a join. It doesn't match perfectly, but once you put all of your flowers and everything else on the card, you're not even going to notice it, and you're going to think that this was one continuous die to create this this size frame for this card. So I'm just adding some of my Barely Arts glue here, back to that staple glue. And I will attach this frame, making sure that that centerpiece where it was cut meets perfectly so that you can't really see that gold pearl cardstock underneath. Now that that's done, I have this happy birthday sentiment. It comes from the mini everyday sentiments set. I had foiled it previously. It's foiled with some Spellbinders polished brass foil. And now I'm going to use some foam squares to adhere these 2 larger flowers in the center of this panel here. Now, once I've got these 2 main flowers attached, I'm going to attach the forget-me-nots just in the top corner and below the flowers too, just to fill in the card panel. And you'll notice that I added just a slight hint of some pink pearl Altenew ink to the center of these flowers. I wanted to keep these flowers a little lighter so that all of the attention is on those beautiful Floribunda roses. I'm adding some of the leaves around the sides just to give it more of that natural green look. And the green actually helps the flower stand out a little bit more, I find. Once I've got all of that there, I've also got a happy birthday sentiment. Now, I actually foiled this happy birthday sentiment a bit earlier on, and it was just kind of sitting there in my stash to use. It actually is from the mini everyday sentiment set, and I think I mentioned that earlier. I'm just going to prop that up here with some foam tape. And I needed the foam tape because I have that beautiful glitter frame here. So that adds dimension. I wouldn't be able to get that in flat. And then I'll just add another little branch here. Now, to the center of these forget-me-nots, remember we have the smaller portion of that flower that we had shaped with the smaller stylus. I'm just going to add those into the center of these flowers, and it just creates a little bit more interest. Once that's all done, I'll go ahead and bling it up with some AB crystal nail art gems. I'll add some in the background, and the smallest size of that gem I'll add to the center of those little forget-me-nots just for a bit more interest. Now, the main thing I wanted to do with this video here was to show you guys how to shape the flowers. I'm always looking for videos on shaping flowers, especially for these beautiful flower dies that Susan releases on occasion. Now I'm also adding some enamel dots here. This is from the Tea Party collection from Altenew. It's the lightest peachy color that I'm adding just to add a bit more contrast in my embellishments. And yeah, I hope that you guys were able to gain something from all of that flower shaping. There are two different ways to shape these flowers. Some of you might prefer the first flower, some of you might prefer the second. It's really all up to you. I know a lot of people have been looking for instructions on how to put these flower sets together, but please keep in mind that you don't have to follow those instructions exactly. What I like to do is look at the packaging and kind of follow what's there. And even if I don't match it exactly, the flowers still turn out stunning. That's the beauty of these sets. So I hope that you guys have been inspired. Go ahead and check out all the products linked in my blog, which is linked below. And if you like my video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will have some more cards to share with you for the May Spellbinders release. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.